Christmas arrived quietly that year, without excitement or bright expectations. Snow covered the streets in a thin, careful layer, and the city seemed to move slower, as if giving people permission to pause. They hadn't planned to spend the holiday together. In fact, neither of them was sure they wanted to see each other at all. Too much had been said before, too much left unresolved. But Christmas has a strange way of reopening doors you thought were closed. She came back to her hometown only for a few days, telling herself it was for family, for tradition, for obligation. He never left. This place had always felt like home to him, even when it reminded him of things he tried to forget. They ran into each other by accident near the old bakery, the one that smelled the same as it had years ago. At first, they just nodded politely, exchanging careful smiles. But something in the cold air, in the familiar street, made pretending impossible. They talked, slowly, about neutral things at first, then about the year that had passed, about how much had changed and how much hadn't. Christmas Eve brought them together again, this time on purpose. Families were busy, houses full, and they found themselves walking through the town lights, hands tucked into coat pockets, breath visible in the air. There was no rush to explain the past or define the future. They spoke honestly, admitting mistakes without turning them into accusations. Christmas, they realized, wasn't about fixing everything. It was about allowing softness where there had been tension, about choosing warmth even when certainty was missing. Later that night, church bells rang, and snow began to fall heavier. They stood side by side, listening, feeling something old and something new exist at the same time. When they finally said goodbye, it wasn't dramatic. No promises, just a shared understanding that some connections don't disappear, they wait. And as Christmas settled quietly around them, both knew that this holiday had given them something rare, not a fresh start, but a gentle return. The days after Christmas Eve unfolded with an unexpected gentleness. They didn't rush into seeing each other again, didn't turn the quiet understanding into constant messages or long calls. Instead, they let space exist, not as distance, but as respect. When they did meet, it was simple and unplanned. A shared coffee after visiting family, a short walk through streets still glowing with leftover lights. Conversations flowed more easily now, without the weight of needing to explain everything at once. They spoke about ordinary things, about how strange it felt to be back, about memories tied to places that hadn't changed at all. And in between those words, there was an unspoken awareness that something fragile but real was being rebuilt, slowly, carefully, the way trust should be. One evening, as Christmas decorations began to come down and the town prepared to return to normal life, they sat together on a familiar bench, wrapped in silence that felt warm instead of awkward. She admitted that she had been afraid to come back, not because of the place, but because of what it might bring back to the surface. He told her he had stayed because running never really helped him let go. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no declaration that everything was suddenly fixed. What they shared instead was honesty without pressure, acceptance without demands. Christmas had softened them both, reminding them that not every story needs a clean break or a perfect ending. When it was time for her to leave again, the goodbye felt different from before. Not heavy, not final, just open. They hugged longer than necessary, both aware that whatever came next would happen naturally or not at all. As she walked away, she didn't feel like she was leaving something unfinished anymore. Christmas had given them a moment of truth, a pause where the past and present could exist together without fighting. And sometimes, that is enough, not to promise forever, but to move forward without regret, carrying the quiet warmth of what was shared when the world slowed down just enough to listen.